Kenty Blitz for your Wednesday. Adam Peacock alongside Paul Kent. Kenty, how's your hump day going?
Yeah, going all right for me, mate. Every day's the same for me, Adam. So, yeah, look, it's going all right. Plenty to talk about, although it's a little bit quiet on the news front, but we can always find something, can't we?
Yeah, Origin, it seems like they've gone behind closed doors and just keeping things within. But there is a story bouncing around today about the refs and how referees out of the NRL head office are evaluated from week to week. And it sounds like Andrew Abdo and his crew are pretty happy with the way things are going.
Yeah, one of the most embarrassing things I've read for some time, that article today. Look, it's by Buzz. I'm not going to be critical of Buzz. He went in there, he spoke to Andrew Abdo. But it, to me, just indicated how off the ball the NRL really are. I thought it was really embarrassing.
How?
Well, the key for me was, and this goes to the heart of the problem of the game, which the NRL do not understand. The key for me was Andrew Abdo saying that they work to an expectation of 3.5 seconds per tackle. Okay, and how good it is that they are consistently getting there. You've been around sport a long time. Yep. I've been around sport a long time. I've been around this game all my life. Some teams are just better than others. Some teams tackle better than others. Some teams earn the right to make the tackle longer than other teams. The fact that the NRL has admitted to getting a consistency of 3.5 seconds for every tackle in the game, whether you're the worst team in the comp or the best team in the comp, whether you're the best defensive team in the comp or the worst defensive team in the comp, the fact that they are driving to give everybody an even break shows they're manufacturing the result. The results are not earned. The tackles have got to be earned in the game. You've got to earn the right to give yourself a longer play the ball in defence. You've got to earn the right to get a quick play the ball when you got the ball. If the NRL is sitting there and actually artificially manufacturing these 3.5 seconds per team, regardless of whether you're hopeless or the best team in the comp, it goes to the guts of what's wrong with the game, and it goes to the guts of what's wrong with this NRL administration, where they sit there and they think they know the game and they've never followed it and they don't understand what's going on.
So have a look at how rugby league has been refereed for a very long time, because it is such a physical sport. So how hard's a hard tackle? Well, that's in the eye of the beholder. But over time, the best refs have been what? The ones that can appreciate the game,
who get a feel for the game, who understand the game, who understand when a tackle is completed as opposed to when the tackle is not completed. Okay, if the NRL is artificially manufacturing this 3.5 second result, and we hear them calling held, whether the player's still up on his feet or whether he's on the ground and players are laying on top of him. So there's apparently no discrepancy between what they're actually visually seeing. The whole thing that's going on in the referee's head is the 3.5 seconds. Yeah. Now, I'll tell you something, and no one at the NRL would know this, okay? I remember speaking to Chris Anderson years and years and years ago, and he said this to me, and I've never forgotten it. He said rugby league had a natural rhythm, and that natural rhythm was this. If you did a particularly good run, you earned the right for a quick play the ball. And the game basically went as long as it. The tackle basically went as long as it took to get back in the 10 metres. Okay, that's how long the tackle takes. Now, out of that, if you have a particularly good run and the defence is scrambling to get back and don't quite get back as the ball's being played, so they have to take another step or two back and then come forward, you've earned the right for that quick play of the ball because of your good run. Alternatively, if you come in and whack a bloke, sit him on his backside, and you knock him to the ground and your team gets back, has a 1 or 2 second pause before they've then got to come off the line and defend, you've earned the right. And that's what the good teams do. The good teams earn the right in the game. The NRL is reducing the difference between the good teams and the bad teams by this artificial 3.5 seconds. Where did that come from? Who plucked that out of their backside?
Well, they've dataized it, I'd say.
That's come from data, right? No one really knows. There's no perfect number for how long a tackle should take. But the NRL's come up with this 3.5 second rule, and for years, fans have been frustrated at the way teams are getting artificially brought into games when they're behind, or artificially slowed down when they're in front. And all these different things are coming in, and it frustrates fans, and the NRL's always denied it. And yet today we get a clear quote from Andrew Abdo saying that they've got consistency around the 3.5 second rule. It shows everything that's wrong with the game. It's embarrassing that the game artificially officiates to a certain parameter that is preset before they get on the field. Who's to say that, for example, Canterbury, the way they're defending, aren't going out and knocking the stuffing out of the Titans and have earned the right to have longer than a 3.5 second tackle?
Yeah.
Or the Titans haven't earned the right to get a 3.5 second tackle.
There's no.
That's the point in the game, and that's what these numbskulls in there don't understand.
You would have grown up in an era watching guys cut guys in half tackling, and it feels like I look at guys like. I'm a Manly fan, so Jake Trbojevic, Steve Menzies spring to mind. We spoke about Trevor Gilmeister yesterday, who had the best tackling technique.
You go back to Ronnie Coote. You go back to Ray Price.
They cut people here. These days, if you tackle like that, it's going to be a quick play the ball.
Yeah,
because
there's
you have
no
to get
reward
off.
for the legs tackle. Okay, we know that.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Even the midriff tackle.
Yeah, but there's no reward for bringing them down that way. Okay, and the modern strategy is to hold the player up. First guy will try and hold the player up, which is I think why we get a lot of these concussions because it's poor head position. But you hold the player up, and then your teammates came in, and second guy comes in. Helps you up top, and the third guy comes in and attacks around the legs, and that's how. And then you bring the player down. And the amount of times, Adam, you see this: player standing in a tackle, he's got two up here, he's got a guy coming hitting around the hips or the thighs, and the referee and they wrestle him, and they're slowing the ball down with the wrestle. Okay, they're wrestling him. They're holding him there. They're not trying to get him down. They're holding him there.
While the line gets back,
and then while the defense gets set, and then what happens is the referee will go held, and then what happens? At that moment, they go boom, and they twist him, and they put him on the ground, which buys them another couple of seconds. Okay? Now, that's a strategy that the NRL hasn't figured out yet. Okay? Certainly haven't stopped it. If a player is standing in the tackle and the referee calls held and then the defence puts him to the ground, it should be a penalty. Okay? So, alternatively, you've got to then start looking for players who are going to start milking that, and will collapse to the ground themselves. But the point is, if you listen to Chris Anderson, what he said, the natural rhythm of the game, it takes as long to get back in defence as it takes to effect a tackle. Therefore, if you are superior in attack, you will earn the right to a quick play the ball and a defensive line that's had no rest. Or if you are superior in defence, you've earned the right to put him on his back and have an extra second or so in defence because you've earned that right. Now, and that is what good teams deserve.
So how do you coach referees that? You coach a natural
understanding
rhythm.
what a tackle is. They don't know what a tackle is. Now, part of it is because the coaches don't play ball, okay? And the coaches have got all these ways, which I just spoke about, one of which I just spoke about, which is how they sit there and they disguise this stalling by pretending they're wrestling the player to the ground. And as the referee says held, the minute the comes out of his mouth, that's when they're moving. Some teams, we've had David Fairley on the show some time back, and he talked about how some teams are so good defensively that when the referee gives the signal to come off the line to defend, he said they're coming as soon as the word just starts to come out of their mouth. Yeah. Other teams are waiting for the word to be fully delivered.
It's like a good swimmer who jumps off the blocks quick.
Exactly. It's all about getting the right start. But I honestly, it does my head in that they sit there and they are boasting about the fact that they are consistent with this 3.5 seconds when, for people who don't know, the entire game of rugby league is won at the ruck. If you win the ruck, you win the game. That's why coaches put so much effort into winning the ruck defensively, or if you've got the ball either side, that's where all the majority of their work goes because that's where you win the game. Now we hear the NRL, it doesn't matter. If you're the worst team in the comp, we're going to reward you anyway because we'll let you stretch it out to 3.5 seconds when you're tackling. And if you're the best team in the comp, we're going to penalise you because we're going to cut it down back into 3.5 seconds when you might have earned the right for a longer tackle. It's embarrassing that this is our our administration, and that they're the guys who are dictating the way the game's played. Like, come on! Like, don't they understand the stupidity of this?
Ashley Klein, in this article, was said that he is the best referee in the comp, and this is why, because of all this data that they operate. I'd love to know, and no one's been able to explain this to me, that everyone said that was the greatest refereeing performance they've ever seen, and that being Adam G 2023 Grand Final, because he stayed out of it.
And the players decided the result.
Players, and Nathan Cleary and Adam Reynolds and Ezra Mam, they were deciding the result, and in the end, Nathan Cleary stood up the most. So I'd like to know what the data says about what's happened to Adam G and what makes Ashley Klein the best ref in the game.
Yeah, and look,
if they want to go down this path of making this stuff public, we'll go a bit further and explain exactly what is happening with the personnel, the selection process.
And the thing is, look, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, right? It's a duck, okay?
Yeah.
Now, if Adam G's refereed the best game that we have seen in some memory, best big game we've seen in memory, why he's disappeared, we don't know. Now, somewhere in all their detail, they will give you a reason why Ashley Klein is a better referee. And I don't want to bang on about Origin. I don't want this to be sour grapes about New South Wales getting beaten the second game. It is beyond that. This is happening every week in club football, okay? This push to have a 3.5 second time frame.
Yeah, it's in the subconscious of the refs.
Well, that's what they're driving to. They should not be trying to drive their outcome. They should be officiating. The game went down a path that has never recovered from when it went down this idea of managing a game rather than officiating a game. Okay, and it is creating all sorts of problems for the game, and it's like a tax law. It's now so written into the code, so deeply written into the code. How do you get it out now? And that's what the problem for the game is how do you get this idea out of equality in defence? That is one of the primary qualities you want from your team is to win the ruck. That's probably it is the first thing you want from your team. And now we find out that the NRL's artificially manufacturing it, so every team's equal. It's just ridiculous. How they think that is fair, how they think that this is the game that people play is absurd. And honestly, someone in there has got to have a look around and say, you know what, we're filling this joint with accountants and failed businessmen and people, Coca-Cola drinkers. Drink Coke your whole life, think you can run the company. Just because you watch footy doesn't mean you can run it. Doesn't mean you know it. They don't know it.
What we do know, Kenty, Brad Fittler won't be Australia coach. He's happy with his life, and good on Freddy. I'm pleased for him. But who now? What now for the NRL?
Again, we go down to Bonehead City, and apparently the decision that's going to come out of there is they're looking at some former elite player to take over the Australian coaching job, which again I don't get. Look, I've had my differences with Brad Fittler. Okay. I don't get this sort of celebrity type coaching that we're falling into in rugby league, where you have to be an elite former player to coach the elite teams. Okay, we're seeing it in Origin. Okay, Billy Slater's never coached anywhere, but he's got the Queensland job. Laurie Daly's never coached anywhere else, but he's got the Queensland. Oh, he did country, but in the fair income stakes. But you know what I mean?
He's got the Blues job.
He's got the Blues job, okay? And now that, Brad Fittler, I know he did do some coaching with the Roosters, but I wouldn't say it was, that he's going to be remembered for that. His ability to draw attention or his attraction for the Australian coaching job was his performance as a player, not as a coach. Okay. Now they're looking at Cameron Smith and Kevin Walters. Admittedly, Kevin Walters has coached coached Queensland and has also coached Brisbane. Okay, and he's coached club footy. But again, the NRL will not explain, or cannot explain, is probably more the point, why they think an elite ex-player could coach at the elite level, but an elite coach who's never played can't also coach at that level. He can't coach the elite players. So they are looking at players. And Michael Maguire was the anomaly last year for New South Wales. But they are looking to go down this celebrity coaching where they want a big profile and a guy, but he's not a coach. They're not coaches. Cameron Smith has never coached. He's never been a head coach of any team.
So where would you go then?
I would go to the NRL. They should be begging Wayne Bennett to take the job. So Wayne Bennett has indicated he wants to do the job, right? The NRL said, no, we want a full-time coach. Now, the full-time coach was only brought in after Ricky Stewart was sacked. Bob Fulton was the Australian coach for many, many years. Ricky Stewart came in. Ricky Stewart took over. Ricky Stewart was sacked because he called Ashley Klein, of all people, a cheat in the lift one day after an Origin game. They sacked him on that. Then Tim Sheens came in, and he was the first non-club coach to coach the Australian team in many, many, many years, okay? If ever. I haven't checked all the way back. But out of that, they have come up with this idea that they now think is written in stone, that you can't be a club coach to coach at the Australian level. Now, that's just rubbish, okay? Sheens came in because Sheens was unemployed at the time, But right now, he took the job. And then after Sheens took the job, Mal took the job, did a wonderful job as Australian coach and restored a lot of the luster to the prestige of playing for Australia that probably got lost a little bit through the years. So Mal did a wonderful job. But there's no hard and fast rule that you have to be a non-club coach. Second to that, you think about who are the best coaches in rugby league? Well, it would make sense that the 17 club coaches earning $1 million a year are the guys best for the job, right? That's why they're in those jobs. Now, there might be a guy number 18 or 19 who is also available, but guys who have never coached before, who have never been a head coach of any team, because it's not just about getting the boys together and giving them a game plan. It's about knowing the difference between whether you pick this guy or that guy, about knowing whether this guy fits your plan or this guy's going to do the job you want him to do. And that's where we've seen some of these origin coaches in recent years come unstuck, right? Brad Fittler came unstuck a couple of times. Laurie Daly came unstuck when he was coaching first time around. Okay, they come unstuck because they were unsure about certain players. That's why Craig Bellamy's sitting there with Laurie Daly now in Origin, just to sit there and help him out with with those sorts of decisions. This is important. This is important for the game. Why they go with the celebrity coaching route? We just want to get a great ex-player because anyone can do the job. Wayne Bennett wants to do the job. They've knocked him back. Now let's also remember this. They said it's too much work for Wayne. Well, Wayne should be able to decide that.
I reckon he knows by now.
Wayne will coach the Australian team in his lunch break. Okay, the other thing. All the Australian games now, the whole rep program is after the NRL season is over, and basically before they come back to pre-season training.
Yeah.
So if Wayne wants to go and coach, let him coach. Let him coach. I just don't get it. But they just go down this idea because when they came into the job, that's what was in place. They've got no idea why. They don't understand why. They don't understand the rationale behind it. They don't understand how, Sheensy went from getting the same. Ricky Stewart did the Australian job for nothing. Did not get paid. Bob Fulton and every coach before them all did the job for nothing because it was a honorary type position. Yeah. Okay, even though they coached it like it was a full-time job, but they did not get paid. Sheens was the first Australian coach to get paid, and all he got paid was the same as a player test payment, $20,000 per test. That's all he got paid. Then when Mal came in, Mal convinced John Grant that it was a full-time job, and so now it's become a six-figure salary, and well into the six figures too, okay? But the NRL, they come in, this is the way it is, this is what the books say, this is what the guys who were there before think it is, and that's what they say is the right way to do it. They've got no idea. They've not been around the game long enough to sit there and say to Wayne Bennett, mate, we're not going to let you coach the Australian team because you can't handle the workload. Come on. Wayne would do it while he's doing his knitting. It is embarrassing that they say that. And let's be fair to him, Wayne gets it right. Yeah. Wayne gets it right. And to knock him back, because of these ideas. What frustrates me is because they actually don't know what they're talking about, these guys. They throw up a reason. No, you can't be a club coach and also coach Australia. Why? Yeah. Give us one good reason. Give us one good reason. Some will go back to the 85 team when Terry Fernley sacked 4 Queenslanders, but he was also the New South Wales coach, and it goes back to those times, right? But Bozo came in and for nearly 20 years after that, coached the Australian team.
While coaching Manly.
While coaching Manly. It just does not, honestly. It frustrates me because they sit there and they know better and they know what's going on and all this sort of business. And it'll only change when Australia start getting beating tests. And I tell you, it's not that far away when you look at the quality of Samoa and Tonga and how in New Zealand, how they're coming on. Already we lost a couple of series, a couple of small tournaments lately. Thankfully they didn't lose the World Cup when it was on 3 years ago now. But I just don't, honestly, mate, I don't know where they go. I don't know how, I just cannot believe they sit there and we're supposed to cop this because they know better and can't give you a reason why.
Mate, so far you're getting a bit off your chest, which is good to hear and good to learn and sit in front of. But give us something. You've
got to fire up every now and then.
Maybe this is a more positive outlook for you about how we were talking about Queensland and their nod to the history, 1995. Sticking with the rep footy right now. Yeah. 05, New South Wales, that was a famous win, and there was a bit of a reunion in camp earlier this week.
Yeah, it was good, wasn't it? Nice to see. It's funny how the Origin, they're both teams now are leaning so far back on their history and just trying to sort of, just get a little bit of the magic that was around back then. It's emerged, obviously, that on Monday night, Laurie Daly and the New South Wales current team called in members of the 2005 team. It wasn't the whole team, sadly, but they went out there and just spent time together and just had something to eat together and things like that. But it was all about just showing where you come from, showing what you're representing, and showing that you're the next stage in that, which is a Queensland thing, to be fair. But I think New South Wales, they're quietly copying the tip.
I reckon it's important because a lot of those players were like starting primary school when that happened. And back to 95, none of those players would be alive when it happens. I sometimes talk to my 20-year-old boy about something that happened at the turn of the century. And I'll go, it's not that long ago, but he's like, Dad, I wasn't alive. So to actually have someone, and I go, thanks for reminding me. That's why I've got so much grey hair. Yeah. But like it's, you got the ready-made, instead of trying to learn through, reading about it or seeing it on YouTube, you got it there in front of you. And that's massive to see the emotion of guys getting those stories across.
It is. And it's necessary. And, the thing that's going to help Origin survive, Origin's in a bit of trouble, slight trouble, not big trouble, but slight trouble, because of the change in temperament of the game. If you want to be harsh with the truth, games 1 and 2 were both glorified club games. Okay, they didn't have those Origin moments. Forget about the fighting, but Origin moments with the big hits. What made both games captivating was the in both instances the losing team coming back and almost winning the game. Okay, but from someone who's been watching Origin as long as I have, and others who have been around the game has definitely shifted in the way it's played.
In terms of the pure one-on-one battle physicality.
Well, it just look.
Is that what you're saying?
Johnny Lewis always used to say it's like a 15-round fight, and you go out and you soften each other up in the first 10, 15 minutes before you start to get to play footy. Now they just go straight into footy mode and they just try to go set for set. That's in the old days. It would be the first 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes longer if the game was particularly explosive. But the first 15 to 20 minutes would always be about just bashing each other and just trying to gain ascendancy physically over the team you're playing, over New South Wales or over Queensland. And that was what the game was about. And then after 15 or 20 minutes, when it started to settle down, generally the fights were over by then. Then they started to play a bit of footy, and if you had managed to get yourself on top, then you were going okay. And if you weren't on top, well, then you'd say, you know what, we need to get physical again, and we're going to go back and we're going to find a way to do that, either through a fight or something else, a big hit, for example, and then try and change the momentum of the game that way. Now, first ruck, they're just trying to go set for set. Let's get to our kick, good kick chase. Let's jam up, defend, and do it, and to see who goes the longest, who buckles first, and that's the way they do it. So Origin's sort of in a little bit of trouble that the game is not there like it used to be, but they need to sort of, what's going to keep it alive is the reliving of past stories, and that history. The American sport had this strong belief that any sport is only as good as its history. And so they really celebrate their history in their sports. And so they, whether it's the Masters or whether it's the Super Bowls or World Series games, they really celebrate those moments. And they do a very good sort of job of like godding it all up and making it bigger than it actually was and all the rest of it. That's what Origin is. And that's where, that's going to be the saviour of Origin.
Quick one as well. We've got some watchers, some listeners come in with their Origin bolters as well. Someone's thrown up. Forgot about these two, Johnny Buttigieg and John Doyle. Back in the early 2000s.
Origin bolters. Yeah. Well, they came. They were both at Cowboys, weren't they? I think. They came in. And they were part of the Wayne Bennett team when he basically, I think, sacked 8 or 10 players and brought in a whole new squad and turned everything around and basically wrote the modern template for what Queensland is. Yeah, I spoke to Dave Trodden today at the NRL. There's actually been 3 players for New South Wales. We spoke about Phil Duke yesterday, who was picked out of the Moree Boomerangs to play.
It's become the Phil Duke week, this has.
Yes, it has. But there's actually been another 2. Rex Wright was picked out of the Newcastle competition, hadn't played any top flight footy. And the other bloke, which is the fascinating one, a bloke called Paul Field, was playing for Cootamundra. Played for country. Out of the country team, he got picked to play, I think he was a hooker, got picked to play for New South Wales. and never played NRL. He went straight back to play for Cootamundra.
That's amazing.
His only elite game was a State of Origin game. A couple of years ago, he was at a function. They had an old function down at Cootamundra. Les Boyd, Paul Field is very good mates with Les Boyd. Les Boyd took him along to the function. Blues didn't know who he was. So Dave Trodden said to him, mate, come over and say good day to Freddy, who was the New South Wales coach at the time. He said, mate, I don't want to, I'm not a blow-in. I don't want to go over and impose on him. And he said, mate, just come over and say hello. Like, he'll know who you are. Don't worry about it. Took him over. Anyway, Freddy put his arm around him, had him come to dinner the next day with the team, had him there as part of it all. He had the Blues wrapped around him, and I just thought it was a nice touch,
Yeah, imagine if it happened now. Someone just playing Grafton Ghosts this weekend. Oh, by the way, you're playing Origin on the weekend. Come in.
It won't happen now, but magic moments, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Brief bit of club footy. Cameron Ciraldo's chosen to keep Lachie Galvin where he is on the bench. Now, this is probably out of Matt Burton not being the 18th for the 300th time.
He could have played for New South Wales. Could have played Burton centre. Yeah,
but you don't mind it?
No, I like it. I like the fact that Ciraldo is really managing well Lachie Galvin's induction at the club. He's not rushing him in. There's a lot of sympathy for Toby Sexton as the halfback, and I think if he got sort of rissoled out of the joint too quickly, there could be you run the risk of some resentment being there. Yeah. So he's making Lachie Galvin earn his spot. Okay, and to be fair, if Sexton keeps going the way he is, it might not happen this year. I think it will, but it might not happen this year. But I think I like the fact that Ciraldo has done that. So, yeah, nice touch.
Big call, though, to get someone in. And a quick one on Selwyn. He's got the one on his back for the Broncos in that game against the Dogs on Friday night.
Yeah, look, I like it. It's going to be interesting to see how he reacts to it. That's going to be the big thing. I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on Cobbo to just watch how his reaction to it. He's now signed with the Dolphins. There's been a lot of coverage of the situation in the past fortnight. And he's got an opportunity now to go out and show the Broncos what they let go.
And Kenty, got to make mention of this with the NRLW starting this week as well. Fanatics TV, you can catch a brand new offering, Footy for Real. Jada Taylor and Matty Studden hosting that one, so they'll pick apart everything from the NRLW, footy in general as well. So it's well worth a watch.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Yeah, Jada Taylor actually did a show here with me, and she was really good, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, I shouldn't say actually, but she was really good. She was she's a really impressive young lady.
Wonder what she thinks of the refereeing situation at the NRL.
Mate, I tell you what.
Find out.
You know what? She'll tell you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, I like. She's very forthright. I like that.
Excellent. Catch you tomorrow, mate.
See you tomorrow.
That was Kenty Blitz.